All right, Saints, I'm back. I had to take that phone call. It was relevant to my day. Couldn't let it go. So today's sermon is entitled, No, You Are in Fact Not Crazy. That is the title of today's sermon. And I came up with the title of this sermon over breakfast this morning because I was thinking about all of the times that I lay out just a basic tone for the week, like saying, look, you see all of these aspects, you see all of these sign changes, you see all of these astrological configurations happening. That means things are happening, things are moving, things are progressing. There is a lot of news and information and just all kinds of events and circumstances, both personally in our personal lives as well as collectively in the news and global whatever. So this week is one of those weeks where like everything is going down, all related to the two narratives that I laid out a while back. A while back I did a video and I was talking about how this year there are two really distinct narratives, one of which has already completed, and it was a layover from last year. That narrative was the cardinal convergence narrative, where we had Jupiter in Libra, Venus retrograde in Libra, Mars retrograde in Capricorn, and eclipses in Cancer and Capricorn that wrapped up at the end of January. So the other two narratives that left us with for 2019 was, I called it the fixed pluckery, right? Because of Jupiter in Scorpio and all of these configurations kind of participating in that narrative of how our survival instinct shapes how we interpret everything. And then the other narrative, of course, is Mutable Madness 2019. So today is so wild because like right now, Moon is in Taurus, Jupiter is in Scorpio, Sun is in Aquarius, right? These planets are all going to kind of line up at the late degrees of these signs, right? The late degrees of fixed signs at this last quarter moon today. And then tomorrow, right, Moon enters Gemini, Saturn in Sagittarius, Sun and Mercury conjoined at 0 Pisces, and then we're Mutable Madness. So these two narratives, I think, flow into each other. They're not distinct and separate, especially because Jupiter, which is in charge of Saturn and Sagittarius, is in Scorpio. So we have this overlay of fixed signs and mutable signs, which by the time we get to the end of this month, it's going to be Mutable Madness hardcore, very similar to the middle of March 2018. So whenever we talked about fixed signs, which are in focus today, we're talking about our survival instinct, and we're talking about maintaining a solid and cohesive sense of self, right? When you have a fractured and dissociated sense of self, it can spiral into a lot of different personality disorders, mood disorders, right? So keeping or having a cohesive and solid sense of self is important to mental well-being. And there are moments in time where our sense of self is temporarily fractured, right? And we can often align those with transits to the sun in our birth chart, right? Sun opposite Saturn, Jupiter square opposite your sun. So when today I say you, in fact, are not crazy, one of the things that's so important about astrology and what it provides for us, and which is why I really like to think of astrology in terms of seasons and times, so like this time of mutable madness or fixed fluffery, what it's really doing is cluing you in and keying you in to the fact that we're all experiencing the same things at the same time. That was 2017, I believe, and that was fixed signs, and that was the Leo eclipses and Saturn and Scorpio in 2017 love seasoning. So the names that I give these times and energies really are to help you understand that we're all experiencing the same thing at the same time. one of the things that Sidereal has really made so very clear for me is that we are so alike and we have the same experiences, all of us, right? There are different cultural and historical contexts for our experiences, but we're all having the same experiences. When I look at a chart and I see Taurus and I see Cancer and I see Libra dominating their chart, there is no doubt every single time that women have played a dominant role in shaping their sense of self, and they have been the lead players in their experiences in life. When I see my multiple clients who were born between late or mid-August 1979 and early September 1979, and they've got 3, 4, 5, 6 planets in Leo, every single one of them, their fathers were the force to be reckoned with in their life. And so understanding that while everyone's chart is different, the similarities are so huge that it's impossible to overlook. It's very difficult to see that in the tropical zodiac because it just doesn't function the same way. The tropical zodiac signs do not function the same way, and they are not interpreted the same way. So when I say you, in fact, are not crazy, what I'm saying is that the tension that you feel in your personal life and watching the ways that things are manifesting in the collective, for example, since at least October or November of last year, I've been saying that education policy and education administration was going to be a huge topic in 2019 because of the eclipses in Gemini and Sagittarius. And sure enough, look at that. Yesterday, that story comes out about them white folks paying doctors and trying to get different organizations to diagnose their children with learning disabilities so that they can get extra time on test, faking images of their kids playing polo so they can get an athletic scholarship. Like, sounds like mutable madness to me. So the other thing that I really wanted to harp on when we talk about you, in fact, are not crazy, is that if you, in your sidereal birth chart, are Virgo, Sagittarius, Pisces, or Gemini rising, I'm going to say that again. If in your sidereal birth chart, you are Sagittarius, Virgo, Pisces, or Gemini rising, listen, you're not crazy, right? The angles of your chart are being hit by major astrological configurations and transits. And this means that basically houses 2, 3, 5, 6, 8, 9, and 11, 12 are unnecessary optional houses in our birth chart. Houses 1, 4, 7, and 10. Listen, 1 is you. Traditionally, 7 is death. 4 and 10 are your parents. Those are the only guarantees in life. That if you are here, you were born. And if you were born, it was because a male and a female copulated, or the egg and the sperm, and you're going to die. Hey, Kaylin. So those 4 parts of the chart, if you are Virgo, Gemini, Pisces, or Sagittarius rising, are being hit. You, your parents, your home, right? And then the 7th house is, in this sense, in this day and age, partnership of all kinds. Beef, friends and foes are the 7th house. So mutable madness for you is very personal, right? Mutable madness for you means that your whole entire life, the anchors and cornerstones of your existence, are being screwed around with and changed. And the essence of mutable madness is asking you, how are you interpreting the information and experiences? What's the story you're telling? Where you get your information from? Who's talking? What did they say? Did you hear them? Did you hear what they said? Did you hear what you said in your head about what they said, which was not what they said, right? This is mutable madness. And so we're really talking about meaning and interpretation and language and articulation, right? Communication in a very, very, very basic sense. I released my eclipse guide at the end of last year, and I realized that people don't really understand what that is and why they need it. And so I just really want you to look around you, right? And see, right? I've been saying words mean things in regards to the 2019 Gemini Sagittarius eclipses since last year, because words mean things, right? So we're seeing all over the place this sense of, when you use a word, you are articulating a consensus about how to perceive something, right? And when you use a word and you do not mean what you said, you confuse yourself and everybody else. So all of that to say that today and tomorrow, are very intense days. Yesterday was a lot. The news cycle was just out of control. I mean, look at that. Paul Manafort is being sentenced today, right? So, you're not crazy. If you are feeling like you can't find your words, if things are getting lost in translation, you are not crazy. If you are one of these mutable rising signs and you feel like you're questioning everything in your life, your very foundation and roots, your sense of self and how you became who you are not crazy. You are not crazy. I want to talk about one more thing really quickly that's related, that I've been wanting to tweet or talk about for a while, because it came up with a client a couple weeks ago. And the thing that came up is this idea of creating apocalyptic moments. This is a word for someone. It's for myself, because I know I go through this thing, but I'm sure it's just coming up in this moment because somebody needs to hear it. There are moments in our life where the change that is required for us to move forward is so big and so large that we feel incapable of executing that change, right? And so often what we end up doing is creating apocalyptic moments in our life. When I say apocalyptic moment, what I mean is that we look for something to be so wrong or so bad or so unbelievable that if it is true, our whole life has changed. It'll never be the same, right? I'm back. So we see this very frequently when there's tension between North Korea and America, nuclear tension. We see this when there are outbreaks of diseases that have been, gone, right, for so long. We see this in our personal lives when we just feel helpless to our circumstances and we need them to change. So with one of my clients, this person was like, oh my God, I have skin cancer, right? But we create these apocalyptic moments because we know that change is so necessary and we're not going to make it without change. But it feels like the change is impossible, right? The economy, oh my God, the economy is going to crash and then we're all going to have to eat the grass in our lawns. No, that happens some places. But most people to whom that happens, they're not creating apocalyptic moments because part of creating apocalyptic moments means that your survival is not really threatened. If your survival was threatened, you would not have the mental capability of creating apocalyptic moments because you would be in one, right? So all of that to say that change is incremental and it is rarely apocalyptic, right? Change comes bit by bit and piece by piece. And sometimes a big chunk of it falls on you at once. But ultimately, you don't want apocalyptic moments in your life, right? Because what an apocalyptic moment really is saying, I keep on saying apocalyptic, which is a whole other word, but what an apocalyptic moment is really saying is that you feel incapable of making the changes that you need to make in your life. And so you need something to come into your life and change it for you. Illness, a disaster, you know, a great loss, some falling apart or falling out in your country or in your state or town, right? We want to give ourselves over to change in a way where we don't have to do the work. So all of that to say, this week and over the coming months, as we head towards the eclipses in July and finally the eclipse in December, and let's not forget the end of August into September, because that's a whole nother fixed fluckery thing that's like, be mindful of creating these apocalyptic moments. Because when you create these apocalyptic moments where you just want something to be so wrong so that the change you crave can come, realize this is a moment of gratitude, because you're actually not having an apocalyptic moment, right? If you were really having a real apocalypse, a real end time, a real disaster, a real terminal illness, right? Which some people really do have. So like, you know, some people are living that, but the people who are living that are not having these apocalyptic moments in their life. So I just want y'all to be mindful of that there may be a lot of things wrong, but it's not so wrong that you need something to come in and destroy your life. Right? Sometimes you just want to burn the whole thing down. And I don't really know if you know what that means, because if you've been through any devastation, any trauma, major loss and disaster, trust me, folks are still trying to get their lives together after hurricanes and wildfires. Their stuff did get burned all the way down. Like, you don't want that. So be grateful for this moment and focus on the small ways that you can invite change into your life. No, you're not crazy. We're all going through things, and it's a part of a collective change. Back in the day, I used to say, heal yourself, heal the world, because a healed world is a world full of healed individuals. And astrology really articulates that the individual and the collective are so intertwined and so connected. They're inseparable. What is happening to me is a part of the change that is happening in the world. Me changing and my life changing is the world changing, and the world changing is me and my life changing. So that's all I have to say. I need a moment to catch myself before I go work, and I just thought that I'd share with y'all that yesterday I think I realized that I am in fact not allergic to wheat. I think I have celiac disease, and so that's just really making a whole lot of things make a lot more sense. I know they say black people don't really get it, but ain't that wild? If y'all know any black folks with celiacs, hit me up. Send them my way. I need to talk. I need to figure out what's going on. Like, where did this come from? Which ancestor gave it to me? Because it's hereditary. Yeah. And if you have celiacs, even if you're not black, talk to me. I'm real interested. All right, you guys have a great Wednesday. We are going to make it. Breathe through it. I'm going to tell you what I told my son. And he was like, wow, mommy, you're such a good mommy. That really worked. When your mind is spiraling and the thoughts are carrying you rather than you carrying the thoughts, focus on your breath. Just count to 4 or 8 as you inhale and exhale. And every time that thought gets back on the train track, and you want to jump on the back of that thought and be dragged along with that train, focus on your breath. Come back to the breath. Come back to the breath. Come back to the breath. Count and come back to the breath. Goodbye.